Hey, David Mens, you're an Amazon seller's lawyer, and I have a question. Like, what's the kind of craziest and most challenging case you were able to solve as an Amazon seller's lawyer on Amazon? Man, please share if you have such a case.
Yeah, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of pretty crazy cases, but one that sticks out was a seller with about 50 to 100 employees. And he wakes up one morning, the owner, or at least the majority shareholder, with an account suspension, over $1 million in funds that were frozen, and I believe upwards of $5 million in inventory that was now frozen. Every passing day, I don't remember the number, but the company was obviously not making any money due to the suspension, losing tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars a day in sales. After a handful of days when no revenue is coming in, it gets to a point where a lot of businesses have to start terminating employees because they don't really have a choice. What ended up happening was Amazon flagged the account for what they refer to as deceptive or fraudulent activity. And the seller had no idea what could have caused this. The account was clear. So we had to go into investigation mode to try and figure out what Amazon doesn't mean that the seller is guilty in any way, but we have to at least try and determine what Amazon might have flagged. Why would they flag this account, right? For such a large account, usually Amazon will only do it for a good reason, but we've seen them make mistakes. So we went into investigation mode. We found something with less than 1% of sales at issue where we believed could have been a cause of a potential terms of service violation. But in general, it was a very minor thing, related to the heavy price that they were paying for the account suspension. So you're able to discover that, and we advised the seller to contact, or we advised that we'll get in contact on their behalf with Amazon's outside counsel. Okay, we tried appeals as well, but in general, we told them that it's best to get in contact with their attorneys while we wait to hear back from the appeals teams. And of course, we get in contact with them. We send them all of the information that we have, all of the evidence that this is a bogus suspension. Actually, very quickly, I don't remember the exact time frame, the seller wakes up another morning, handful of days later, and the account was reinstated. The funds were released, over $1 million. Same thing with the inventory rather, unfrozen, and they didn't have to terminate anybody. So obviously, it was a lot of pressure, but we're thrilled to come out on top in that case. That's a business where if another, let's call it, handful of weeks, maybe a few months, depending on the business, they would go under, right?
Yeah.
Some businesses rely heavily on Amazon, nearly 100% of their business. So it's one of the reasons when things like this happen, I always advise sellers. I know it's not always feasible, to do your best always to diversify. Okay. Amazon is obviously the biggest player in the field, and not really many other platforms can compete. So I understand it, but I always advise sellers, do the best you can today to diversify so that if there's ever a rainy day, you're not relying solely on Amazon, that you can go out of business essentially overnight if Amazon decides they want to suspend you. So that case was some time ago, but it still is one that really sticks out to me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing. I mean, I can only imagine like this kind of morning, right? I mean, you wake up and you have like 100 people's on payroll and products, shipments, maybe a family. I don't know. Then what do you do, right? So like the seller took action by trying to solve it, of course. Otherwise, they go out of business. So they contacted you, and you went into, as you mentioned, research mode to try to understand exactly what happened. I believe also there's a lot of products that, because if it's such a big team, so you had to look, to read, to see all the small details. So a lot of work on your side, I believe, as well. But then finally, you were able to kind of contact Amazon's teams and kind of escalate it and explain to them that, as far as I understood, it was just coming without a proper reason, sort of, right? This scenario
Correct.
from
Correct.
from
Yeah.
the Amazon
Oh,
side,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. The seller didn't really know. So we had to go into investigation mode. And one of the things we also had to tell the seller was, you could try and appeal this, but the lower level Amazon appeal teams, they're not authorized to release, that kind of
Yeah.
money with someone higher up approving it,
Ooh,
right? So
interesting.
that's why we got to get in contact with their attorneys. And I thought initially we weren't going to have a choice but to go to arbitration, but we advised to try and submit this first. And the pre-arbitration process is what we call it. And, basically gave him a certain amount of time. And if it wasn't resolved, in a short period of time, that he would have to file a demand, which that was going to be the next step. But luckily someone on Amazon's legal team saw it and we didn't have to go that route, and it saved them also more money, didn't
Yeah.
have to fire anyone. It was wild. It was a wild one, but yeah.
Yeah, also thanks for the tip, man, as far as like you're saying, like diversify, right? So that's a good idea. And also another one probably I was thinking also of is stack some cash, like as of obviously for your own life. Like that's not a financial advice or anything like that, but generally like things might happen in real life, not only business wise. So whatever your monthly expenses are, it's good to have that amount X whatever. Like some people say half a year, but realistically, like is the more the better in a sense. And with the business too, like if you have your business accounts and you're spending whatever money on products, whatever money on ads, then having more cash in the business for those rainy days can really help, man. Because like yeah, like so many people on payroll. And of course, you can, if things get really bad, you can explain to them, like, a salary might get delayed or whatever. But then again, this is 100 families or
Right.
something that need to pay their things. So entrepreneurship is a fun game, right? I'm just wishing all the entrepreneurs listening to not get into these situations. And if we do get into them, then just breathe a little and start acting, solve things. You can contact David if anything happens. His website is in the description, email, phone, socials, and the playlist with all our videos with David also. Yeah, man, thank you for helping that seller and others. Thank you, man.
Thank you.